What's up YouTube, Mex Tech Guy here. So today I'm going to be reviewing the Moto G5 Plus. For those of you unaware of this device, it's Motorola's latest approach on how you don't have to spend a ton of money on a decent phone. To get pricing out of the way, this device will run you anywhere between $230 and $300 depending on which variant you decide to go with. So anyways, the unboxing is relatively simple and straightforward. Opening up the box reveals the phone itself, and the only accessories to go with it are the fast charging power brick and the micro USB cable. My very first impressions with this phone were pretty good considering that this phone only costs $230 and that's full retail. This particular variant is the fine gold variant, but it also comes in lunar gray as Motorola calls it. It is made of metal and it's not very common for budget smartphones, and it has this nice and smooth finish to it which gives it a high-end appeal. The rim of the phone does have a shiny finish to it which stands out and has a nice and comfortable grip to it with weight you would expect out of a metal phone. Moving on to the specs, you're going to find a Snapdragon 625 chip. Facing you is a 5.2-inch 1080p IPS display with 424 ppi. The glass on this device is Corning Gorilla Glass 3, so not the most recent version, but definitely durable. It does feature SD card support. It comes in either 2 gigs of RAM with 32 gigs of storage or 4 gigs of RAM with 64 gigs of storage. It features a 12 megapixel f1.7 rear camera and a 5 megapixel front facing camera. Also features fast charging, a non-removable 3000 milliamp battery, and it's running the latest version of Android. So yeah, a lot of features you expect out of a $600 or even $700 phone, but now all packed in a budget-friendly price range. This phone has been my daily for a few days now, and I'm honestly really impressed. I keep forgetting that this phone costs less than $300, and that's because of the smooth experience I've had with it. Now yes, this device only has 2 gigs of RAM, and obviously can't compete with higher-end devices such as the S8 or iPhone 7, but for the price, you're definitely getting more than what you would expect. But anyways, since this is running Android Nougat, you are getting a smooth experience on board. There aren't any bloatware apps other than a few Motorola apps that can be disabled, but overall you're getting an almost stock Android experience with the Motorola skin on top. The settings are really clean, but again, thanks to the Android Nougat, and even the notification area is very clean as well. You're able to customize the quick toggles to your liking, and the animations are smooth as well. Again, everything really flows well, which is pretty awesome considering the price tag. Now, one thing I found that definitely shows the power of 2 gigs of RAM is that it doesn't keep apps open in the background, but that is perfectly understandable, and I don't expect it from 2 gigs of RAM. I'm sure the 4 gig variant doesn't have that problem, and it's not a huge deal to me, but definitely something to mention. So before quickly judging this device, do know it only has 2 gigs of RAM. This was especially an issue with games and higher intensity apps such as YouTube and Google Maps, so if you don't like that, then I would suggest going with the 4 gig variant. The display is actually really nice and vibrant and has some really nice popping colors. To put it into comparison, the iPhone 7 Plus's screen is only 0.3 inches larger with the same resolution, and the Moto G5 Plus has more pixel density. So if you think the iPhone has a great screen, then this shouldn't let you down. If there was one complaint about the display, and I guess it's only because I've been spoiled by the S8, is the fact the display has big bezels. I wouldn't call this a complaint since I'm comparing the screen to a high-end device, but overall the display does offer some nice color and brightness. It really didn't have much trouble even outside. I personally found that shocking because it's using an IPS display, but honestly it had very little visibility issues even with direct sunlight on it. Right under the display is your fingerprint scanner. Surprisingly, it's really fast, and when using it to unlock the phone, you'll quickly find yourself at the home page. Unfortunately, this button only works as a fingerprint scanner and not a home button. However, the home, back, and recents keys are all found virtually on the display, but it does do well at unlocking your device. It also serves as a way to turn the display off, which is really cool just in case you don't want to press the power button. If there is one thing I wish all phones had, it would be a front-facing speaker. Not only do they sound better, but when watching videos such as this one, you don't cover the speaker. There are other manufacturers that have implemented this type of design, but I wish all manufacturers would do it. It isn't the loudest speaker that I've heard on a phone, but at least it's a front-facing speaker, and I'm not covering it when holding the phone to watch a video. Besides all those features, what most people look for now in a smartphone is the camera, and the Moto G5 Plus doesn't lose ground there either. With an aperture of f1.7 and a 12 megapixel sensor, I was able to capture some really good photos and videos. Most phones around the budget friendly zone, and especially Motorola in general, have never been strong in the camera department, but you're truly getting a good camera for cheap. The camera app itself gives you the option to switch to pro mode and even slow motion videos. What's neat is that you can also shoot videos in 4K at 30 FPS. The camera does lack OIS, so when shooting videos while moving, you can definitely tell that there's a slight chop between frames, but if you're just shooting in one place, it does really well. The shots are actually really clear and has some good color. Some of the shots were a little more on the cooler side, but other shots had great exposure with a more natural look, which I like. One area that it did really well was in low light conditions, and I literally took shots after 8:30 p.m. and the HDR feature along with the f1.7 aperture really helped the camera shine in this department, which is seen in more high-end phones. So yes, big thumbs up from me on this camera. However, the front-facing camera has a 5 megapixel sensor, which is not the best and definitely a 2016 feature. It isn't the best, obviously, but it also isn't the worst. With an aperture of f2.2, it isn't bringing in much light into the sensor, so a lot of the shots I took were very soft and not as sharp as I wanted them to be. A neat little trick that is also packed in this phone is the ability to twist the phone to bring up the camera, and you can also program the power button to bring up the camera by double pressing it. Overall, this device is packing a lot of features for cheap. It's crazy to think that smartphones have gotten so cheap yet still provide the majority of the things that people look for in a phone. The Moto G5 Plus is definitely a win in my book. You're getting a great phone, a great screen with good color and brightness, a fast fingerprint scanner, a long-lasting battery that you can get you throughout the day, and if you run out of storage, you always have the option to increase it. You also don't miss out on any classic Motorola features such as chopping the phone to turn on the flashlight. If you're in the market for a new phone and don't want to drop a ton of cash or even simply want a spare phone, the Moto G5 Plus is definitely a contender. Well guys, that wraps up today's video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and press that like button if you enjoyed the content. Catch you guys in the next one. Later.